Hi, I'm not with you tomorrow, so I thought what I would do is just make a quick video to talk to you through the beginning of Book 9. And Book 9 is terribly important. We've talked a little bit about with Nausicaa in Book 6 about how Odysseus is now sort of entering into civilization and this transition that he needs to make. And at the very end of Book 8, which I just gave you a summary of, he is hanging out with Nausicaa's father, King Alcinous, and there is a bard that is singing the tale of the Trojan War, and Odysseus breaks down into tears. And good Xenia is you don't continue the story when your guest is like crying. So then, because of that, the king asked Odysseus, "You are someone who knows about the war. Can you tell us your story?" So you get to the very beginning of Book 9, and it starts, and this is an important transition because now, instead of Homer as your narrator for a few books, it is going to be Odysseus himself. Odysseus' voice, he's telling the story about his travels before he got to Calypso's island, Ogygia. And these are fantastical tales that kind of start realistic. They get more and more sort of mythological as they go. It is quite clear that he really likes to tell a story. He really likes to talk. He really likes to sort of spread the glory, his kleos, and stories about himself. And so he is not the most reliable of narrators in some ways. And so you always have to kind of see, oh, well, where is he kind of promoting good old Odysseus, and so on. So that's part of the stuff that I really, I love this. And I know you guys may not be quite there with me, but hang in there. So he says on page 145, Homer opens up Book 9, like everybody at the Book 8, they said, okay, go get a glass of water and get a little, go get a little bit of beef jerky or whatever they ate, probably a bunch of dried meats, and come back, after you've gone to the bathroom, we're going to start in Book 9. And they come back and he says, now with this reply, Odysseus made. And then he goes, Alcinous, I guess is how you say it. And he flatters him because, he does that. He has done that with, we've seen him do it with, Calypso. We've seen it do with Nausicaa. He did it when he went and visited Nausicaa's parents, which you did not read. And now he's doing it again here with her father as he launches into his story. And so he gives him all these things. And then he said at about line 13, what shall I say first? What shall I keep until the end? So he's thinking like a writer, right? Like he's kind of doing something with like meta thinking, where Homer is giving us this process of storytelling with Odysseus. And the gods have tried me in 1,000 ways, but first my name. Let that be known to you, and if I pull away from piteous death, friendship will bind us, though my land lies far. And here is the first name that he identifies himself to human beings. It is a big deal. I am Laertes' son, Odysseus. It's important for us to understand the importance of this moment. And I am sure the people at this dinner party, they're like, oh my God, oh, can you believe it? Because he's famous. He knows he's famous because the minstrel in the chapter before was singing about his adventures. So he is, okay, world, I'm back, baby. And so then he says, men hold me formidable for guile in peace and war, like smarts in peace and war. This fame has gone abroad to the sky's rim. My home is on the peaked sea mark of Ithaca. And so he does his little travelogue thing about where he is from. And he says at the end of that stanza on page 146, was line like 37, but in my heart I never, I'm sorry, yes, 37, but in my heart I never gave consent. Where shall a man find sweetness to surpass his own home and his parents? In far lands he shall not, though he find a house of gold. Ding, 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 ding. Nostos, right? So he now is talking about all of these adventures, but still I want to be home. Then he goes on, what are those years of rough adventure weathered under Zeus? The wind that carried west from Ilion brought me to Ismaros, and on the far shore, a strong point on the coast of Kykonus. And he talks about arriving in Kykonus with his men. They essentially conquer it. There's a little like icky stuff of enslaving all the women. And he says at about line, and I have so many notes that I can't read them, like 52. He says, "Hey, okay, we've gotten our spoils. Let's get out of here." He says, "Back and quickly out to sea again. My men were mutinous fools on stores of wine. Sheep after sheep they butchered by the surf, and shambling cattle feasting." This is important because it shows that his men are not easily controlled. It's going to be a main theme throughout the rest of his, they call it the Great Wanderings, these stories of him before he gets back to Ithaca. And it also shows kind of bad Xenia in some ways. They're just kind of acting like the suitors. They're, just killing the sheep and, wanting to hang out and just get drunk and party, right? So what happens is that it's not just that they're being unpleasant or mutinous. It's that the problem is that the Kykonus army then comes in and kills a few of them, and so they're not being smart. And this is a part of, Odysseus sees things and he's smart. He can be arrogant, but he's smart, and he knows that they should have gotten out of there. And you're going to see that this happens over and over and over again in these next few books. And it shows that he is a heroic man, and he also is very smart and strategically thoughtful. So then we go on page 147, where they end up in a new place, the land of the Lotus Eaters. And the Lotus Eaters it's a place where it is peaceful. But if you turn to page 148, the very top of it, those who ate this honeyed plant, the lotus, never cared to report, nor to return. They longed to stay forever, browsing on that native bloom, forgetful of their homeland. And he forces them back on the boat. But again, this is something that's standing in the way of the Nostos, not just of him, but these people that are essentially drug addicts. That's what he's talking about there, is that what drugs do, what addiction does. It's a short little thing, but what addiction does and how it stands in the way of doing the things that you need to do, that you want to do, that you're living for, which is to go back home, how it is such a distracting experience. And then finally he lands in the lands with the Cyclopes. And the Cyclopes are isolated people. You'll see page 148, line 113. He says they're louts without a law to bless them, in ignorance, leaving the fruitage of the earth in mystery to the immortal gods. They neither plow nor sow by hand, nor till the ground through grain. Wild wheat and barley grows untended, and wine grapes and clusters ripen in heaven's rain. Cyclopes have no muster and no meeting, no consultation or old tribal ways. Be each one dwells in his own mountain cave, dealing out rough justice to wife and child, indifferent to what the others do. The Cyclopes as monstrous. They are the opposite of what a Greek wants to be. They have one eye, because why do you need two when all you care about is yourself? And in fact, they beat their kids, they beat their wives. They are the worst, and they are beasts, and they're wild, and they don't obviously have respect for family. They don't have respect for protocols of civilization. They clearly don't practice xenia, as you'll find. They eat their guests. That's not, what you do when you are showing hospitality. They are a group of monsters in the Greek mind, and on how not to behave, how they are everything that they regard as dangerous and uncivilized. The Lotus Eaters, they're distracted, but they're not monsters, right? The land of the Lotus Eaters is more that the problems of addiction or the problems of alcoholism, which was an issue for the Greeks. They did not believe public drunkenness was a good thing, although there were some groups that found it funny. That was not necessarily where they stood. But here you have the Cyclopes, who are clearly uncivilized. And I'm going to kind of leave it there, but one more thing that I do want to mention before I finish is that he always says in these places, where am I? Is this a place that is safe and civilized? Or is it a place that is not civilized? We heard him say that when he landed in Nausicaa's island. He says it about the Cyclopes as well, when he says, I think it's on the next page, of whether he is, he wants to take some men to go see the Cyclopes. He wants to see if they're louts, as he describes them. Are they monsters or are they civilized? It is something that he says when he arrives in new places frequently. And so get used to hearing that and noticing the concern about whether he can expect Xenia or not is really about his survival. As I said, when we translate this word to hospitality, we're demeaning the concept of what Xenia really is. Xenia is really a way of civilization surviving, a way of helping people in a hostile environment survive. Okay, so you have some things on Canvas to do, and I will see you on, somebody is waving to me through the door, and I will see you on Friday. Bye.